I can't believe this offseason has so many surprises waiting for us. Look, Chicago, what I'm going to tell you today will completely change how you see this organization and the future of our Bears. A controversy that's got the whole city talking about our rookie quarterback, a golden opportunity that could come directly from Cincinnati to strengthen our defense, and a battle for the most important position to protect our future is about to be decided. But here's the craziest part, fans, because each one of these news stories is connected to one thing, proving we finally have an organization that understands what it means to win in Chicago. Don't miss a second of this video, because I guarantee that by the end, you'll know why this summer will be historic for the Bears. Look, I'm gonna start with something that's got all of Chicago divided, and I think it's time someone tells it like it is. Remember when Matt Eberflus was our coach and we were suffering every Sunday watching them fail to develop Caleb Williams? Well, it turns out now, months later, Eberflus is defending himself against those accusations, saying our rookie quarterback was watching film completely alone, without any coach supervision. And I'm going to explain exactly what's happening here, because this situation is much more complex than it appears on the surface. Seth Wickersham of ESPN published explosive details in his new book, American Kings: A Biography of the Quarterback, where he basically tore apart the way Chicago handled Williams' development during his rookie season. Eberflus finally broke the silence on the Doomsday podcast with Ed Werder and Matt Mosley, and let me tell you, his response was interesting. And in the development of the quarterback position, and really all positions during my time with the Bears, we always had daily film sessions with coaches, said Eberflus. That was throughout the whole year. That's what I observed, and that's where I was. But you know what? Here's the million-dollar question I have. If everything was as organized as Eberflus claims, why was Williams sacked 68 times this season? To put it in perspective, fans, that's the fourth highest figure in NFL history for a rookie. Why did they have to fire Shane Waldron mid-season if development was going so well? Why was Eberflus himself fired after the Thanksgiving disaster against Detroit? Numbers don't lie, fans. And when Ed Werder brought up to Eberflus that Nick Saban, who was his college coach at Toledo, emphasized the need to be hands-on when developing young quarterbacks, you know what Eberflus said. That's really all I have to say about that. That's what it is. He basically shut down completely. I think what really happened here is that we had a coaching staff that was completely lost on how to develop a quarterback of Caleb Williams' caliber. When a rookie like him sets franchise records with 3,541 passing yards and 20 touchdowns, but at the same time is allowed to get hit like a piñata week after week, something fundamental isn't working in the system. And look at what I find most revealing about this whole controversy. Williams himself had to come out and make almost a 4-minute statement to clear up all the drama that arose from Wickersham's book. And here's where it gets really interesting, because it turns out his family DID have serious doubts about coming to Chicago. Something that keeps getting lost, something that I think is not being addressed the way it needs to be addressed, is the fact that I went on that visit first, said Williams. I came here, and after I came here, I went home. Talked to my dad about all the things that were supposed to be these great things everyone's been talking about lately. One, they never happened in the sense that they were all thoughts. They were all ideas. And you know what? I don't blame Caleb or his family at all for having those doubts. After years of seeing how this organization handled quarterbacks from the Trubisky era, through the Mitchell disaster to constant issues with player development, any smart family would ask the same questions. Wouldn't you? But here's what really gets me excited and what shows the championship character of this kid. Williams decided to come to Chicago precisely because he saw this as a challenge. He wanted to be the guy who changed the narrative of this franchise. It was a deliberate response, and a deliberate and determined response, that I wanted to come here, explained Williams. Just like Ben said, it's a challenge to come here and try to turn this around. And you know why this excites me so much? Because we finally have a quarterback who isn't coming to Chicago to hide or play it safe. He's coming with the mindset of, I'm going to be the one who changes everything. And that, fans, is a champion's mentality. That's what we needed in the city after decades of mediocrity at the position. Why do you think we now have Ben Johnson as head coach? Why do you think we brought in Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, and Jonah Jackson to protect Williams? Because finally, We have someone in the organization who knows how to develop explosive offenses and protect their star quarterback. The contrast between the Eberflus era and what's coming with Johnson is like comparing a flashlight to the sun. If you thought the Williams controversy was explosive, wait until you hear this, because what's coming might be the smartest move Ryan Poles makes all summer. It turns out there's a serious problem between the Cincinnati Bengals and their 17th pick in the 2025 draft, Shamar Stewart, the defensive end from Texas A&M, who hasn't signed his rookie contract due to issues with the agreement's language. And guess who's the #1 destination for Stewart, according to Bleacher Report experts? The Bears. And I'm going to break down point by point why this makes all the sense in the world for us, but also why there are risks we need to consider. First, let me explain exactly what's going on in Cincinnati, because this is a case study of how not to handle your first-round pick. Stewart wasn't present during the Bengals' mandatory minicamp this week, and negotiations are completely stalled due to disputes over voids in the guaranteed money. Basically, Cincinnati and Stewart's team can't agree on the contract terms, and what does this mean? That there are two possible scenarios. Either Stewart sits out the entire season and re-enters the draft in 2026, or Cincinnati decides to cut their losses and trade him before the situation becomes more toxic. And here's where we come in, fans. Bleacher Report suggests we would need to give a second round and a third round pick in 2026 to get Stewart. Is that a lot? On paper, yes, but let me explain why this could be an absolute steal for Chicago. First, we have Dennis Allen as defensive coordinator, and this guy knows exactly what to do with powerful pass rushers like Stewart. Remember what he did with Cameron Jordan in New Orleans. Jordan had multiple double-digit sack seasons under Allen's system. I believe Allen sees in Stewart the same type of player who can be dominant in our defensive scheme. There's a great connection that would make this possible. And that connection is the right style of Shamar Stewart and the blend and fit with Dennis Allen's defense, explained Bleacher Report. Dennis Allen looks for powerful pass rushers with size, with reach, and that's always been a huge part of his defenses. Second, and this is what excites me the most, Stewart played at Texas A&M with Shemar Turner, whom we drafted in the second round this year. Do you think it's a coincidence that Ryan Poles is considering this move? I tell you, absolutely not. Having two college teammates who already have chemistry playing together on our defensive line could be exactly what we need to take our defense to the next level. Imagine this. Stewart and Turner already know how the other works. They have timing. On stunts and blitzes, they have that nonverbal communication that takes years to develop among line mates. That is invaluable in the NFL, especially when trying to implement a new defensive system under Dennis Allen. Third, let's talk about need. Yes, we have Montez Sweat, who was a fantastic acquisition. But after him, what do we have? Dio Dangbo, who Cincinnati considered a risk when we signed him for $48 million over 3 years after he only had 3 sacks last season. And after him, we have Austin Booker and Daniel Hardy as our third and fourth pass rushers. Does that excite you for facing Aaron Rodgers twice a year? Not me. They already have Montez Sweat, and yes, they signed a defensive end in free agency, but if you look at their depth chart, they have guys like Austin Booker and Daniel Hardy as their third and fourth edge rushers, and they really have no long-term security at that position, noted Bleacher Report. And you know what else I like about this potential move? That it shows Poles isn't afraid to take calculated risk when he sees an opportunity. After what we did with Montez Sweat last year, where we basically stole him from Washington, I think having two elite pass rushers would completely change our defense. Imagine Sweat on one side with his 12.5 sacks from last season, Stewart on the other side with his size and power, and Turner dominating on the inside along with veterans. That's the type of pass rush that can take a defense from mediocre to elite in a single season. But, and here's the part that worries me a little, Stewart didn't have spectacular numbers in college. Only 1.5 sacks in 2000. 24 and 4.5 sacks in his 3 seasons at Texas A&M. Does that concern me? Honestly, a bit. Because after the experience with Leonard Floyd, who was also athletic but without college production, I know sometimes these projects don't pan out. But I also know that sometimes numbers don't tell the whole story, especially when talking about players in the right system with the right coaching. Cameron Jordan only had 4.5 sacks in his final college season. And look at what he became under Dennis Allen. The real question is it worth the risk? I think it is for several reasons. One, we're talking about first-round talent for the price of second and third-round picks. Two, we have the perfect defensive coordinator to develop him. And three, the pre-existing chemistry with Turner could significantly speed up his development. But here's what could be the most important thing for the immediate future of Caleb Williams and this franchise. The battle for left tackle is about to explode when training camp starts in a few weeks. And let me tell you, this competition could completely define the success or failure of our 2025 season. Aussie Trapo, our second-round pick from last year's draft, has been rotating with second-year Kieran Amegadji throughout minicamp and OTA practices. And let me tell you something that's got me completely excited. This guy is taking advantage of every opportunity he's given. It's a really cool opportunity, said Trapilo. And this is the perfect time for the coaches to do it. Rotate the guys. There are no pads or anything yet, so they're really doing the best they can to give guys opportunities and let them feel everything. I'm out there every chance I get trying to make the most of it, and I think it's really beneficial to be able to work alongside guys who have played in this league. And you know why this is absolutely crucial for our future. Because Ben Johnson made it clear as day. For me, the number one job of an offensive tackle, doesn't matter if it's right or left, is to protect the pass. You need to be able to block their best pass rusher one-on-one. For me, that's the number one job. And anything we can get from them in a run game is just icing on the cake. But we need to figure out who the best pass protector is. The most consistent pass protector. Fans, after seeing Williams sacked 68 times last year, the fourth highest in NFL history for a rookie, don't you think this is the most important position we have to get right? I guarantee you, if we don't protect Caleb, no matter how much talent we have in other positions, it won't matter. What excites me most about a Trapilo is the mentality and attitude he's showing, but also the environment he's learning in. This guy is working directly with Joe Thuney, our Pro Bowl guard, who also has significant experience as a left tackle. Imagine the knowledge he's absorbing working side by side with a veteran of that quality. The benefit of practice is that you can come back to the huddle and talk about it a bit. You don't just have to move on to the next play right now, explained Trapilo. Talking about the reps with Thuney and seeing where his head's at and just learning from him. This is priceless, fans. Thuney isn't just a 3-time Pro Bowler, but he's played in Super Bowls, protected Tom Brady, been in the biggest moments of this sport. The knowledge he can transfer to a rookie like Trapilo about protections, about reading stunts and blitzes, about the mental preparation required to play left tackle in the NFL. That's the kind of mentorship that can accelerate a young player's development by years. But here's the plot twist that will make this battle absolutely epic. Braxton Jones is going to return from the injury list for training camp. Jones fractured his fibula last December and missed the entire offseason, but he's set to come back just as practices with pads start. So now we have 3 legitimate candidates for the most crucial position on our offensive line. Trapilo, who has been impressing everyone during spring practices. Amegadji, who is also fighting hard for the spot. And Jones, who is technically the incumbent starter who protected the position during most of Williams' rookie season. When was the last time we had a real legitimate competition for such a crucial spot in Chicago? I can't remember an open battle for left tackle in years. And that excites me because competition brings out the best in everyone. But let me be honest with you about each candidate because this decision will directly impact Williams' success and our offense. Jones has the experience. He was the one protecting Williams for most of the rookie season. He knows the system, knows the protections, and has chemistry with Caleb, but, and this is a big but, Williams was sacked 68 times with Jones protecting his blind side. That's not entirely Jones's fault, but we can't ignore that the protection wasn't adequate. Amegadji has the athleticism and physical potential. He's younger, more athletic, and has had all offseason to learn Ben Johnson's system. His ceiling could be higher than Jones's. But he's relatively inexperienced and is still learning the nuances of playing left tackle at the professional level. Trapilo has the most refined technique coming out of college, and according to all reports, he's been the one who impressed the most in spring practices. He has the pedigree of being selected in the second round specifically for this position. But he's still a rookie who's never faced an NFL caliber pass rush. And you know what I like most about Trapailo's mentality? That he 完全理解工作才刚刚开始 when the pads come on. Camp is right around the corner, said Trapilo. You can't take that lightly. You can't take much time off and relax. It's time to work. That is the mentality we need in Chicago. No excuses, no complacency, just pure hunger to compete and win. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who wins this battle. What matters is that the winner can protect Caleb Williams consistently over 17 games and plus playoffs. Ben Johnson has been very clear about what he's going to evaluate. Camp is right around the corner. You can't take that lightly. You can't take much time off and relax. It's go time. And that evaluation will include not just regular practices, but also joint practices against other teams and preseason games, where we'll finally see these guys against real pass rushers with real contact. The reality is this decision could define our entire season. If we get the left tackle right, Williams will have the time and protection to utilize all that talent we have in Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen. If we fail, we'll see another year of our franchise quarterback being constantly hit. Fans, after everything I've told you today, I want you to understand something very important. We're watching an organization that finally is making the right decisions in all areas. It's no coincidence that all these news stories are emerging at the same time. The controversy with Eberflus reminds us why we needed a coaching staff change. The opportunity with Stewart shows that Ryan Poles is being aggressive in improving our weaknesses. And the battle for left tackle demonstrates that we finally have depth and real competition in crucial positions. From bringing in Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen as coordinators, to considering smart moves like the one for Stewart, to having real competition in key positions like left tackle. All this points to an organization that finally understands what it takes to win in the modern NFL. Do you think Eberflus was right in his defense about Williams' development, or do you agree with me that we urgently needed a coaching change? Do you think we should make the trade for Stewart even though it represents a financial and draft pick risk? And who do you think should and will win the battle for left tackle between Trapilo, Amigagi, and Jones? Leave me your answers in the comments, because this is our community, this is our Bears family, and together we're going to follow every move of this organization until we bring the title back to Chicago that we so deserve after decades of waiting. If you're with me, if you feel the same excitement and hope for what's coming this season, if you believe we finally have the pieces to seriously compete in the NFC, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we'll have more explosive news and in-depth analysis, and you can't miss what's coming for our Bears. Bear down, Chicago, DA Bears. This is our season.